Hey, everybody. How you doing? What? All right, I'm actually stalling right now because there's gonna be some latecomers. So we are live on Instagram right now. We are here for the first ever Wild Goose Coffee virtual cupping event. So we're super glad that you're here to join us. I know some of you are feverishly scarfing down lunch right now and trying, unless you're on the East Coast, some of you are there, getting ready for happy hour. But before happy hour, we want to start with some cupping. So hopefully you got the email with how to prepare ahead of time. So you should be having some water that's hot, about 205 degrees. The cups should be in order from the Mexico, Ethiopia, and then the mystery coffee. If you're not sure what the mystery coffee is, stay tuned because we're going to reveal that. And then I think that's about all we got. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Nate Westwick. I'm the owner of Wild Goose Coffee. And this is our director of coffee, Matt Thomas. He is a Q grader. So what is a Q grader, you might ask? It's kind of like a wine sommelier. What's a wine sommelier, you might ask? It's someone who can taste really, really well. And so he's got a certificate to prove it. And so Matt is our director of coffee. Would you like to say hello to the crowd?
Hello.
He's a man of few words, but a huge palate. And that's why we have him here. So, all right, so we are ready to roll. One of the things that you're going to do is you're going to grind the coffee at a coarse grind. So when we do the cupping, there's really 5 things we're going to do. We're going to smell, then we're going to smell, then we're going to smell, and then we're going to taste, and then we're going to taste. It's pretty simple. And so there's 5 processes. So why do we cup? This is a professional industry standard. What is cupping? Matt, take it away.
Cupping is the industry standard, like Nate said. It's how most people in the coffee industry taste coffee and figure out what they want to bring in. There's 3 reasons why we cup. One is production cupping, so making sure the coffee's tasting as great as it can at all times. Another is a purchasing cupping. So what I'll do is roast coffee on a little tiny sample roaster, and we'll cup it the next day to figure out what we want to bring in for the lineup, and the best coffee wins. And then a public cupping, which is what we're doing kind of now without the public, but you at home. And it's usually free to the public. And that's just for fun, just to kind of stretch our imagination and show everyone what we're about.
Yeah, and so we do this process on the back end to evaluate all coffees before they make their way to your home. And so it's not uncommon for us to have this table completely filled with 15 to 20 coffees. And as Matt said, the best coffee wins. And so we have chosen the best coffees to showcase for you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grind these. I want you to start with the Mexico, then I want you to go to Ethiopia, and then the mystery coffee. And we have this special talent here at Wild Goose. Go ahead and start grinding your coffees. We have a hypersonic grinder that goes really fast, and a mystery thing where I could just pass this slightly off camera, and in a few seconds it's going to come back ground. It's the most amazing thing ever. I know you're super jealous at home. You may hear some sounds. That should be the sound of you grinding as well. Okay, so go ahead and grind. As you're grinding, please feel free to fire away any questions you might have. This is a live event, unless you're watching it not live, and then it's not a live event. And again, we're looking at a coarse grind. So I'm going to go ahead and bring these over to the camera. And you can see we are looking at a coarse grind similar to a French press. If you have a burr grinder, that's the way to go. If you have one of those blade grinders that chops your coffee, good luck to you. Just kidding, you'll still be able to enjoy. And then what I'm doing is I'm just pounding these ever so slightly, just to help the ground settle on the cup. If you're using teacups from home, that's totally fine. We just would recommend shaking it and giving it a little tap on your table. Gathering by your silence, there are no questions. Which must mean we're amazing at explaining.
You're good at explaining.
Lots of waves. I'm feeling the love. By the way, I'm feeling the love from New York, from Georgia, from Massachusetts, from Ohio, Missoula, Montana. We had so many people out of state. So whatever time zone you're in, I'm so glad you're here joining us. And I'm going to do a virtual wave right back at you. So, okay. So Matt, the first thing we're going to do is smell. I told you there was going to be a 5-step process. Smell, smell, smell again, taste, taste again. So the first thing is called
Fragrance.
Fragrance, which is another word for?
Smell.
Smell. You got it. All right. So if you need to look up on Roger's Thesaurus, feel free, or you can take our word for it.
Yeah. So as Nate said, there's 3 steps of smelling, and the reason we do that is obviously because we get something different from each smell. So not to spoil too much, but the first one is going to be when the grounds are dry. next one's going to be when they're wet, and next one is going to be when we plunge through it and an aroma comes at us. But try to take note of differences in smells. Even if it's just coffee is coffee to you, see if you can't pick out from each cup that it's different.
Yep. And if it tastes like coffee, we've done our job. If it tastes like different coffee from each cup, then we've really done our job, right? And you'll notice that Matt has his notebook here. This is top secret information in here. So if we were to open it up and show you, it would reveal trade secrets that could compromise the entire operation. But this is where he takes his notes on the different coffees. So if you'd like to take notes at home, feel free. The other thing I totally forgot to say is be sure to tag this experience. You already know where to find us because you're here, but in case you totally forgot how you got here, we're at Wild Goose Coffee, and so be sure to tag the virtual cupping at Wild Goose Coffee and enjoy it. Okay, so we're gonna smell. Again, we're gonna start, everything we do is gonna be in the same order, from Mexico to Ethiopia to the mystery coffee. Okay, so the first thing you're gonna do is you're just gonna dip your nose right down. And if it smells good, that's awesome. I'm gonna smell that one. And I'm gonna smell the third one. And the third one smells really mysterious, Matt.
I won't tell.
I wonder what it is. All right.
Bonus points if you can figure out.
That's true, bonus material. So hopefully you're noticing 3 different aromas, fragrances as it were. And anything else you want to tell us about this step?
I don't think so. Let's get to smelling again.
Let's get to smelling again. So first step is fragrance. Second step is aroma. The aroma is going to be where you're going to take that hot water kettle and pour it directly over. Okay, so if we get some close-ups on this one, Matt will demonstrate the water. Also, please get a timer ready. You're going to want to set a timer for 4 minutes. Matt uses his Steve Jobs issued barista timer. And so we're just going to go ahead and start the timer when the water hits the grounds. And I'm using my gooseneck kettle. Some would call it a wild gooseneck kettle. And I am...
He caught it in the wild.
That's right, I did. I hunted it down in the wild. It was great. I think it was came from Missoula, Montana. Yeah, you'll notice a beautiful crust start to form. I think it's beautiful. I'm trying to make sure that all the grounds are evenly saturated. The gooseneck kettle does help pour nicely. If you're using your tea kettle from home, the important thing is not to spill, not to burn your toes, and to make sure that all the grounds get evenly dunked. So we're obviously doing 2 sets here. You may be doing 1 set at home. Notice how I'm getting it all the way to the top. We want to make sure that we use that surface tension. Not that we're trying to create a tense moment, but the water just does that. Ah, water puns, love them. All right, and we're just gonna let it sit for a minute. And your house should be smelling, actually if you're doing this in your cubicle, props to you. I kind of hope some of you are, because that would be amazing, because you're gonna have a lot of goosenecked co-workers looking over your cubicle wall saying, hey, how do I get in on this action? You can say, grab a spoon, join us.
Dad joke.
Dad jokes, right up here. All right, Matt, so the second one is aroma.
Yes.
Which is also a synonym for?
Smell.
Smell. All right, good.
Yes.
So tell us about aroma.
Oh, it smells good. So aroma is different than fragrance because there's water in contact with it. Usually what we look for here is defects in coffee. So defects in coffee are a lot more prevalent in the aroma when water has come in contact with it than when it's just dry. And those defects could come from stuff back at origin, roasting defects, just things that really don't taste good in your coffee. And those come in the taste like chlorine, taste like wet cardboard. Not that I've done that before. It just isn't good and not coffee tasting. So we don't want that. But if you do happen to smell any of those things, we have not done our job right. So tell us about it.
Now, if you just disclaimer, if you take a piece of wet cardboard and dip it in it, then you haven't done your job right. But we're okay. Right? All right. So we're gonna go ahead and smell again. Same order: Mexico, Ethiopia, mystery coffee. Ah,
That smells really good. And it should be noted, if you are not able to do it this way through the materials that you have at home, maybe it's a little limited, and you're just brewing them on just a manual drip, you can still go along with us and kind of smell the coffee, because that again has an aroma, even though we're not doing it in this process.
Yeah.
As you brew coffee, it'll start to bring out different flavors.
as you brew the coffee, lift the top and kind of stick your nose in there, fog up your glasses. It'll work. Or your contacts. I don't know if you know. So now, other than killing time, what are we doing right now?
We are waiting for the coffee to brew. So there's a couple different like brewing methods, not to get super nerdy on anyone, but this is an immersive process, kind of like a French press, where all the water and all the coffee come in contact at the same time. And so we're just waiting for the coffee to bring out just the right amount of flavor, so as not to become too bitter, but not as to be too watery as well. And so we're just waiting till the 4-minute mark in case it wasn't said before, and then we're gonna do the exciting next step.
Which is smell.
Smell, yeah.
You got it.
But
right?
a better smell.
But a better smell. So you'll notice each of these smells, fragrance, aroma, and then we're gonna call breaking the crust is going to allow more and more aromatics. We do have a question from.
Well, we have had a couple people just join us, so if
dear.
you are willing to kind of give a recap of what we've done so far,
Totally.
I could catch them up.
All right, so we are currently, well, let's just start from the very, very beginning. So we ground the coffee on a coarse grind, similar to a French press. We organized the coffees from Mexico to Ethiopia to mystery coffee. Then we poured our hot water over, then we smelled, fragrance. And then we poured hot water over the coffee grounds directly on top of the coffee grounds, setting a timer while we do so and waiting 4 minutes, and we're in that waiting spot right now. It may sound like you didn't miss much, but what you missed is a ton of sagacity. Yeah, that's a word. That means wisdom.
Scrabble.
And smarts. And on Scrabble, if you can spell that, that means you have too many tiles and you should. All right, so mine are coming close to the 4-minute mark. Matt's, he's a little, he's catching up. All right, so breaking the crust. I would like to demonstrate breaking the crust because there's a very common rookie mistake that people make. If we get a close-up on this, when you break the crust, the idea is, if you notice there's the surface tension with the grounds nice on the top. The idea is to push the spoon and break the crust. However, one of the rookie mistakes that people make is they'll break the crust and then they'll go to smell, and you're gonna miss it. When you break the crust, you should get one big burst of aromatics, but the caveat is that your head has to get down there first. So you're gonna get it right down in there, making sure not to get a little something on your nose. Get right down in there and then swirl to depress the grounds, okay? That is called breaking the crust. When that happens, please be sure to breathe in, because you'll be getting a burst of aromatics that is nothing short of fantastic, right? You also should have a cup of hot water handy. I think I mentioned that at the beginning, but if I didn't, super sorry. Grab your kettle, fill a little bit of water so you can clean the spoon, okay? I'm gonna again start with the Mexico. I'm gonna get up close and personal. I'm going to be breathing in through my nose. I'm gonna stop talking in just a minute, and then I'm going to depress the beans. And though the beans are depressed, I am not. That is some good smelling coffee. I love coffee puns. All right. And if you're noticing, different.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. We've done our job. All right. Different. All right. Matt, would you like to?
Love it.
Okay. And what are they looking for? And by looking, I mean in the nose regions.
What I want you to figure out is how it's changed from smell to smell to smell. So this is a much more intense version, for better or for worse, of what you just smelled in the first 2 steps. And so really try to pick out specific flavors, because like he said, it's there and it's gone. Coffee.
All right. So you should have noticed 3 aromas. Perhaps all 3 are different. They are. And now we're going to clean the coffee. So this is a little bit of a tricky process.
Behind the scenes.
And if we get a close-up in here, you're going to take a cup of coffee, a cup, which is a dump cup. I'm going to take 2 spoons, and I'm going to just take them and wrap around and try to skim the top off. And then once I do that, I'm going to either fling them at a younger sibling, or I'm just going to toss them into a dump cup. I'll rinse, maybe do 1 more pass to clean off any debris on the top. Now, some of you may be wondering, what the heck? Aren't there a bunch of grounds on the bottom? And the answer is yes, there are. All right, and so you want to keep that in mind when we do our next step, which is tasting. You do not want to get that spoon in the bottom of that cup, otherwise you're going to be in for a most unpleasant surprise. And your mission will be grounded. Oh, that was, we can strike that one from the record. That was not my best word.
Maybe you have a count on how many dad jokes?
Yeah, there's like 16 dad jokes so far. Stay tuned, there are more on the way. There are more on the way.
Beautiful.
All right. So again, I'm just skimming from the top. If your spoon happens to get a little too deep, don't worry about it. Give it time. The grounds will rest. And then I'm just going to go back through any little stragglers I prefer to take care of now rather than later. Okay. Now, we've done 3 out of the 5 steps. That's 60% for those of you following along at home. We did fragrance, that's smell. We did aroma, that's also smell. We did breaking the crust, that's also smell. Now for those of you paying very close attention, the final 2 steps have to do with a different sensory experience. Yes. That would be?
Taste.
Taste. All right, so we finally get to taste these coffees. Now as we're evaluating these, this is called a production cupping, right? We're sharing the production roast that we've done. When we do an evaluative cupping to try to decide which Colombia to bring in, or in this case, which Mexico, which Ethiopia, or sometimes we just want to see which mystery coffee we want to bring in, we're going through all these things as Matt was talking about, looking for defects, looking for things that sparkle. Matt is very ardent about making sure that we do not discuss what we have. And I'm an external processor, so I like to talk, and Matt gives me a stern finger wag and says, do not say a word until we're done. Now, as you notice, I like to talk. So you guys can talk about it. If you have comments, throw them in there. We'd be happy to take questions. We are also waiting after the cups have been cleaned. So my timer has been going, and it should be, we don't want to taste before about 10 minutes have elapsed. And the reason for that is, why?
It's too hot and you'll burn your tongue.
Very
and then
practical.
you can't taste anything.
Yeah, once that tongue is, you've all been there, you've gone through the drive-through, you've gotten a cup of coffee, you take a sip, and then you say words that your parents don't want to hear you say because you have then scorched your taste buds, and they are then scorched for days.
Eternity.
Nearly eternity, thanks to the regenerative efforts of the body, not eternity, and then we're able to taste again. So we're just going to allow these things to cool. We're at about the 10-minute mark. Again, we're going through the same order. So Mexico, then Ethiopia, and then Misterioso. All right. So I'm going to grab my spoon. I've got a cup of water that's hot so that I can clean it out. We also have a telephone here at the roastery. That is what you're hearing. Now, when I grab coffee, I'm going to fill it up about a maximum of a halfway full, okay? And so that will allow me to be able to slurp with more vigor and vim. Oh yes. All right.
You're slurping coffee? What?
Yeah, I know. What is slurp? So I thought this was supposed to be like a pinkies out. Let me demonstrate how not to cup.
Majestic.
That's not how we do it around here. We need to let loose, let our hair down. I let my hair down every day. Never changes. That's how we cup coffee, all right? You want to slurp. Why are we slurping, man? It sounds slurpy.
So what we're doing is a fun word called retronasal olfaction, smelling backwards.
Can you spell that backwards?
Not at all.
You can just say.
So when we taste, we are spraying the coffee essentially across all of our nerve endings on our tongue. So we're trying to blanket our tongue with as many tasting notes as we can, because as you did it, it kind of just is there and it's gone. With the slurp, it kind of sprays in the back of your mouth and on your tongue. So trying to get as
Kind
many
of like
flavors.
aerating the palate with if you're sipping wine. All right, what am I tasting for?
Ooh, complexities, flavor notes. The first pass we want to during the first pass, a lot of what you're going to taste, because it is still pretty hot, is a lot of sweetness. And so what I look for in the first pass is, does it taste good or bad? Is it sweet or not? Is there a lot of clarity? Is it not too muddled? Because there's not very specific flavor notes a lot of the time to be picked out in the first pass. But as the second taste comes around, and as the coffee is cooled to the temperature of your tongue, it starts to begin to open up a little more, and you can start to pick out those subtle, nuanced flavors that otherwise wouldn't be present in the first pass. So
One of the signs of a really great coffee is that it will taste really, really good as it cools. You don't want a coffee that kind of drops off the table on the palate. And so, some of you tell me that you leave your coffee in the car all day and then you drink the rest of it on your commute home. Don't recommend that. It's been baking in your sun. This is greenhouse effect thing going on here. Don't do that. But a really good coffee should still stay nice on your desk, because I know you're all making pour overs at your desk, right? All right, so I'm gonna go back and do, can I keep tasting or do I need to wait? So we've done 4 out of the 5. Smell, 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 taste. When do we get to go to the taste?
I would say around 13-ish minutes. That's usually, generally speaking, when it's kind of cool to the temperature of your mouth, 98 some degrees or something. And at that point, you're going to be able to pick out the more nuanced, subtle flavors. So enjoy.
All right, so I'm gonna go back to my spoon. Do remember to dip your spoon in the water in between each tasting. It's tasting mighty fine.
And by this point, you should have noticed, I hope, some differences between the 3 coffees. What I would love to know is, did it smell different than it tasted, and vice versa? A lot of the time, what we look for in coffees during the purchasing decisions when we cup coffees are, do they taste and smell good at every single step of the process? And if one of those steps is omitted, and it maybe didn't taste as good cooling down in the second pass, like it kind of fell off, became astringent, that's a no-go. We would love for it to be balanced, sweet, complex from start to finish, from when we've ground it until after our last sip.
Yep. And I'm really curious, for those of you tasting alongside with us live right now, throw in the comments if the Mexico is coffee number 1 and the Ethiopia is coffee number 2 and the mystery coffee is coffee number 3. Just throw down in the comments which one of the 3 is your favorite. And if you really feel ambitious, go ahead and tell us why. Which is your favorite and why? Coffee 1,
Let your nerd fly.
coffee 2, coffee 3. Yeah, let your nerd fly. I like that. And I'm just gonna go ahead and go through another pass, because you really can't ever have too much caffeine. By the way, if this is your first time tasting Wild Goose coffee, you may have noticed when you looked at the beans themselves, they weren't super dark and oily. And that, when I was in college, I swore by grocery store coffee that when I would open it up, it would be jet black and oily, and I would say, this is the good stuff. And after a couple cups of coffee, my stomach would really be upset. And so tell us about that. If we look at the roasting process, this is about as dark as we get. You all have the beans at home. Why are these not jet black and oily?
So we would love, so this happens in the roasting process, turning it from green, which you see at the far end over here, into that dark brown matted color look. Starbucks, other big coffee chains love the oily beans because they are super dark roasted. And we would just love to keep the integrity of the origin itself. So we really want to bring out the characteristics of the origin, whether it's from Mexico, Ethiopia, or a mystery location. Instead of, when you take it super dark and it does start to oil up like that, it kind of all tastes the same. So you're bringing it past the point of no return, where it starts to just taste like a super roasty coffee. And no matter where you get your coffee from, no matter how much nurture that went into that coffee, if you roast it past a certain point, it kind of all tastes the same. Which is great for Starbucks if you're just doing caffeine and sugar, because you just want caffeine and you want it to cut through that super sugary drink, and it's cool. The oils actually, fun fact, have the same effect on your stomach, like you were saying, as rancid milk does. And so it's a super acidic, it's not very natural. It's the carbon dioxide and the chemicals inside the bean popping out that aren't necessarily supposed to be there. And it has the same effect as rancid milk, where it just really, really hurts your stomach.
And in my college days, when I would drink 2 cups of rancid milk, I would have a similar experience. Because in college, you're just trying to save money. You don't really care a lot about those expiration dates. So we're going to go through one more pass. Any votes for favorite coffees here?
Our viewers are weighing in with the Ethiopian being their favorite, with a comment that says, nice dark chocolate base and well-rounded.
Nice.
Wow.
I like that. All right. Do we reveal what we get in the cup?
Sure, that'd be cool.
So tell us what you're tasting in the Mexico.
Super rich, smooth, balanced cup of coffee. It's super sweet in both, to me, super sweet in both the fragrance, the aroma, and all the way through. Kind of like we were talking about a really balanced coffee. This is that stereotypical coffee for me. It's really good black, but it also pairs really well with cream and sugar. If you're that kind of person, do your thing. You do it.
We want you to enjoy your coffee. It's your coffee.
Ethiopia, personally my favorite, so good job. It is super, super delicate. Usually a lot of Ethiopias are, if they're done right. And super delicate, almost tea-like body. I get a lot of like Earl Grey, bergamot, even a little lavender in there. And it's just a really nice cup of coffee. If you're tasting and you're saying, that doesn't taste like coffee, I like that because it's kind of broadening the horizons. And a lot of the time will taste like a tea, which to me is fascinating because there's also a lot of coffees that could taste like beer, like really boozy or like aged in a whiskey barrel and it starts to taste like whiskey. And it's just super fascinating the cross boundaries between different industries to me. This last one is a super, super fruit punch in your face, a little woodsy, kind of like a cinnamon stick feel, and I love it. But I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, my thoughts are that I really want to reveal what the mystery coffee is. So we're going to do a collective, virtual, countrywide drum roll here in a second. So you can either drum roll on your desk, you can drum roll with your spoons. All right. While the drum roll is happening, I do want to point out this Mexico is insane as a cold brew.
Ooh.
Tastes like biting into a dark chocolate bar, and that is delicious. So we have Mexico.
Yes.
We have Ethiopia. For those of you thinking that we're going with a continental variety, you're wrong. Drum roll, please.
Suspense is killing
The
me.
mystery coffee is
Guatemala.
Guatemala. I
What?
bet you didn't see that coming. But Matt, most of the Guatemalas I taste are chocolatey, maybe a hint of citrus. Why is this a fruit punch in the face?
This is processed different than all those, most of those. This is naturally processed. The first two are washed processed. So what you're doing is at origin, you're taking the coffee cherry off the tree, you're depulping it, which is taking the little seed out of the coffee cherry, and then you're washing it in vats of water, drying on raised beds, a little fermentation here and there. It differs everywhere. The Guatemala is picked off the tree and then immediately put on raised beds for 2 weeks to dry. So what I imagine is that little bean is inside a little coffee cherry, marinating in there for 2 weeks. So it's really taking on the integrity of the outside skin cherry. That's why maybe like it's super prevalent, like a maraschino cherry, because it has been like baking, if you will, or marinating in a cherry for 2 weeks. And then it's depulped, comes out as like that kind of green, yellow tint, and then we roast it up.
There you go. So this one is a natural processed coffee. So washed might taste a little cleaner. Natural gets a lot of that fruit imbued. There we go. That's what got a little carried away. And so that's why you taste that fruit punch. In the cup, we got kind of a strawberry creamy situation.
Port
going on.
wine.
So this is our official cupping notes on the mystery coffee, instead of excitement and adventure, which is I believe what was on the sample stage, we had strawberries and cream, clementine, and port wine. And so taste it again and see if you can't come up with those in there.
It's a really deep, rich fruit.
Lots of
which I
red.
just love.
And some people over the years have tasted in color, right? So this would be like a reddish color. This one, the Mexico, might be more of an orangish, brownish kind of tan. I know, Matt, you've talked about describing tastes via shapes. And so kind of however you decide to taste is really part of the fun of what we get.
Yeah.
And you may taste this and say, I don't taste the strawberry.
Totally.
Doesn't
Totally
mean you're a
fine.
failure as a person. We still love you.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
There are so many flavor compounds. There's hundreds of flavor compounds in these. So for us to even think that it boils down to 3 flavors is super naive, and that's just not as it is. So whatever you're tasting could be totally right. We just didn't taste it, but you did. So it's just different palates. And like I said, hundreds of flavor compounds in such an intriguing and complex crop.
Yes, sir. That's
So.
good stuff. Well, I think that about wraps it up, yeah?
I think so.
We're super glad that you guys joined us. If there's any final questions while I'm doing my long soliloquy, consider throwing those in the comment box right now. We did want to offer, because when we would do this live pre-COVID, we would always offer a discount for the people who came for our cupping. And so since you came to the cupping virtually, we're going to give you a discount on our web store, good for 10% off everything. And the cupping discount is I cupped. So when you go to checkout, type in I cupped. Not the elementary school joke that your kids may be telling right now. It's the past tense of that. I-C-U-P-P-E-D. I cupped. If you type that in, you'll get, that's right, you'll get 10% off your entire order, including merch, including coffees, including the new mystery coffee if you really enjoyed that and thought your friends might enjoy that as well.
And it's called?
It is called, that's right. It is called the Guatemala Ayarza, and it is in our recommended section on the website. It is also on the other parts of the website.
Anyway.
Anywhere you look.
Yeah.
So remember the discount code ICUPPED, I-C-U-P-P-E-D, past tense of cup. That's what we did here. And super glad you joined us. I do want to just also say, in a time like this when we're all at different parts of the nation, we are literally physically divided. Our culture and society is very divided. These coffees remind me that there's different origins, different countries represented, and yet we can have a sense of unity in knowing and appreciating the nuances in each one. And so just a quick public service announcement. Please work hard to create unity in your communities, in your relationships, in your world. It's the one common thing we have is that we're all human beings. And so I'm just so grateful that you joined us here. Continue to take steps to enjoy life, enjoy good coffee, enjoy your relationships, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes.
Sweet. Nice job.
Woohoo!
They're gonna want to post
Yeah.
that.
Wait, save it to the phone because I'm going to put it up.